100 Authors in 100 Days conversation, where we explore writers, entrepreneurs, and luminaries all making a positive impact in the world. This is a place where we can get to hear the story behind the story. I am your host, Adriana, and today I get to interview Alejandra. She goes by Alejandra Castellanos, Bar Av, and she's currently in Israel, and so for her it's late in the afternoon, right?
It's 9 p.m. I'm like 10 hours ahead of you.
Yeah, so welcome to the 100 Authors, 100 Days. And also she is going to be one of the co-authors for the Latinas 100 project. So she's part of the project. And today we're going to talk a little bit about her essay that she has submitted for that. And we get to find out more about her. She is incredibly interesting and has this phenomenal background that I want to share with you. So welcome, Ale. Thank you so much for getting.
Thank you, Adriana. It's so good to be here with you. Gracias.
Yes. So I want to read a little bit of your bio. I'm not going to read all of it because let me tell you guys, being beautiful ladies, it is long. So Alejandra is a media and storytelling expert for business with more than 10 years of experience in senior management of television channels and digital agencies in Latin America. And I'm stumbling here because I go back from English and Spanish. and I need like a little refresher, no? So Alejandra joined a few women under the age of 30 in senior management in Central America as co-CEO of Canal 27. She has been a spokesperson for humanitarian aid organizations in Latin America, such as OBI, listed among the top 50 charities of Forbes magazine. So Ale has been just all over the world. Okay, she's been doing television programs in Mexico, Guatemala, the United States, and Israel, and she's had a historical broadcast of Despierta América, a morning program which won an Emmy Award. And there's so much in here, right? What I love is you also did a column called Shalom, My Love in Israel. You created a blog called Hola Land, which you transformed into a media agency specializing in culture and innovation. She is partner of Cantera Capital, an entrepreneurship capital fund that invests in startups with technology-based solutions, which we'll talk more about. And she's a co-author and compiler of the book Cómo Israel me hizo mejor mexicana, How Israel made me a better Mexican, which tells the stories of 6 Mexicans highlighted in Israel, a project of the Israel chapter of Global Network of Mexicans, of which she is founding president. I mean, I could go on, but I'm not going to because she's gonna share a lot of this stuff herself. So I'm excited to have you on and to have this conversation with you, Ale. And
I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Yes. So I did read your book. I bought it and I was going through it. There's some really beautiful pictures of you and your wedding with your husband, and I just love your story because your story is really an international story. And I have your essay here. I have it all marked up and with notes that I took. I don't know if I sent them to you. I want to make sure if I have it. Okay, so I'll definitely send that to you after the.
Yeah, looking forward to read them.
Yes, and I just love your story. So can you share with the viewers more about why you decided to write this essay and this story in particular, and then we'll move on to other questions as our conversation progresses.
Sure. I chose this story when I learned about the 100 Latinas project that you're leading. I thought it was a great idea to share what Latinas are doing all around the world. And I think we're so diverse in Latin America. I grew up in a family in Mexico, but my dad is from El Salvador. My mom is from Mexico. So even though, in all of Latin America, we speak Spanish, and it looks like we could be the same to people outside, even within, going from a big city to a small town, local culture is different. Yeah. And the diversity that there is, not only in Latin America, but all around the world, is something that I've learned to cherish. And I think in general, we struggle with just being open to other people's ideas, beliefs. And I think the world needs a lot of unity and to appreciate diversity. Yeah. And I think also it allows for inclusion, because otherwise, just a very small group of people are making decisions for everybody else. And I think if it's a very limited, undiverse group, then there's also a limitation in the scope and in the perspective. And when you have a more diverse group, you can always make better decisions for a larger, number of population, just because they have a voice.
Yeah. And it helps you embrace others as well. I mean, I know that with my travels, totally, that I would travel to a different country and then I would come back to the United States, I would appreciate people more. I would appreciate other cultures more. And you'd be surprised, just visiting in another country can shift your entire world. Would you agree?
Totally. I think there are many things that are totally cultural in the way we speak to each other. Very simple things like asking for something in the table, or addressing, like the first time I went to actually live in Spain, which is also, again, you don't change the language, it's the same Spanish. But I realized that in Latin America, there's a lot of por favor, si se puede, será que se puede, like you take longer path to go from point A to B. And, in Spain is very, very direct, which can be like sometimes for Latin Americans, sometimes that's rude, but it's just, the first night taught me like, this is the way they talk here and that's okay. It's not rude, it's just the way it is.
Right.
So I think there's once you travel, you get to see so many different people and cultures and habits and, customs, traditions, that it totally opens your world, your perspective, and it makes you a little bit more conscious, humble, and respectful of others.
Yes. So share with us, I agree, I absolutely agree. Share with us how you ended up in Israel, because that's interesting.
That's a great question. In Israel, I can tell you from, the whole story that you wrote, that you read in the beginning, and also from my story about how I came to Israel, I think everything is about love. Love truly moves the world. So my story is, I'm an industrial engineer, yeah. And I love engineering, but I didn't like the workplace that I was in. So I left engineering for television, which is like, it has nothing to do, with each other. But I always thought that, as an industrial engineer, anything is a process, and you can learn any industry, any process, and improve that process. So this is the mindset I brought to broadcast television. Mm-hmm. And I moved to, in that time, in this experience, I was a CEO of a television station in Guatemala. And I got invited by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, together with other 25 journalists, to come to Israel for a course. It was organized by Mashav, which is part of the foreign agency from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for International Development. So I came here. I was here 21 days in Haifa. And my husband, who's today my husband, he was one of the lecturers there. Mm-hmm. So we met each other, and it was like just love at first sight. We had 3 days to, get to know each other a little bit. And then I flew back to Guatemala, and we continued the relationship on the phone, not only on Skype or WhatsApp, but, literally a la antigüita on the phone, the old way. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it was funny.
Old school.
Yeah, old school. And it was, I was waking up and he was going to sleep, and I was, eating dinner with my sister, and he was, waking up for work for a month. And then he came visit my parents in Mexico to meet them. He came to Guatemala to see where I was working, to, get to see my life also. and get to know me better. And then after 3 months, he said, you know what? I really want to start a family. But I want to start a family here in Israel. So are you willing to, come to Israel, see if you really love me and if you like this country, and if you're willing to start a family in this country? And I took the chance.
Yeah.
I took the chance. Yeah. Quit my job, which was really, really hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to do. Yeah, but one of the things that made me take this decision was something that he asked me. He said, I'm sure that you have great projects in Guatemala where you're doing amazing things, and I really loved what you're doing. But to you personally, any amazing project that you can think about in the next 5 years, how much will it add to your life, and how much will it add to the world? How much added value will it bring? And then he said, just ask yourself can that compare to starting a family?
Wow, that was a deep question. Whoa.
Yeah, that was a tough question. I was like, okay, I'm going to consult that with a pillow and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Yeah, that was a tough question. And, I did really this deep thinking. And then I said, family is legacy. And is, something that you can't do by yourself. You really want a great partner for life. And the job, you can always find the job of your dreams where you don't know when are you going to land, where are you going to land, right? So I took the chance for the partner of my life.
Yeah.
I love that. It's been 10 years since then.
How many years now?
10, a decade.
Years. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that you chose love. And when I was reading your essay, I was going through it, and I was like, when I read that part, you said after 3 months getting to know each other, Near, your husband's name, he popped the question, and I kind of giggled because I'm like, oh, I have a similar story where my husband proposed in 40 days and we got married in 3 months. And before this, I didn't even want to get married. I was like, marriage is not for me. I was one of those women. And I was also one of those women that always said, when other women would be like, oh, I met him and we got married in a week, I would always roll my eyes. It's true.
Really?
Yeah. Honest. I'd be like, that's, I was like, that doesn't happen. That's not real. But when it showed up for me, I realized that it was not just a choice, but it was like almost like this energy that was pulling me. I had no control over. And it was something that I couldn't say no to. It was just very evident to me that I needed to marry this man and that he was the right fit for me. I just remember thinking in my mind during that huge transition in my life, thinking there could be no one better for me than this one person because of the way that he was, and then the way that he saw the world. And it was the strangest thing. And I remember telling my mom, I'm me voy a casar, I'm gonna get married. She's like, ¿con quién? With who? She's like, you don't even have a boyfriend. I'm like, I know. I met him 40 days ago.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So I think that this spirit of adventure, you have very similar. We're both very similar in that. And then another thing that I picked up from reading your story is that you're a traveler, and you've been everywhere. So I
wish I was everywhere, but not everywhere. Just like living actually in 4 countries.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Some people never leave the United States or never leave their country. So I want to ask you this question, and we haven't talked about this before, but because of your background and your experience, I want to ask you, how do you see, based on your travels and all the amazing things that you've done, how do you think that the world views Latinas as a whole?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think Latinas as a whole, well, I think our biggest export as Latin American women is music. Like if you can think of the most famous Latinas are, Shakira from Colombia and actresses. So I think they see in general Latinas as very sexy and talented, on screen. I don't think they really know about who we are in real life. like the real Latina personality. Maybe, people who are in contact with real Latinas, but I don't think this is the the I was going to say in Hebrew, the marketing or the branding, I think, that Latinas have in the world. Because, these are the icons that people know about Latin America.
Yeah.
We don't have like big, well, we have actually, there's Cristina Figueres in the UN leading the team for climate change, but she's not as such as icon as, Shakira.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the
Frida
same
Kahlo.
that we would say about Brazil and football players, right? Or Spain.
Yeah.
I think that's how, or artists like Frida Kahlo, which she's, very famous painter, Mexican painter, but there's not a lot of publicity or, branding on Latinas as a whole. That's how I see from, on this side of the world, on the Middle East. Maybe in the States it's a little bit different, but in the Middle East and in Asia, this is how Latinas are the grasp for, in general, Latinas.
Yeah, I have to agree with that too. And that's been a reality whenever I asked any of the writers this question. They say the same thing, that there isn't. And then I think about me personally, like when I look at my bookshelf and I look at the books that I read, I don't have a lot of Latina, writers that Cisneros maybe, but I don't have any authors. And I'm like, why? Why is that? And I think you just said it. It was like we don't brand, we don't, put our stamp on things. And I don't know if that's cultural.
Also, there's this, I read when I decided to do the blog, the Hola Land blog, when I started it in Spanish about Israeli innovation. I read about, all these blogs. When I came here 10 years ago, there were tons of blogs about Israeli innovation in English, but I think there was nothing in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I read that in general, Spanish speakers consume a lot of content, but they're not creating a lot of content, even though we're really talented on content creation. And we've shown that, I think, in the film industry.
Yeah.
But a lot of, it's just, in the past, maybe 2 decades, that Spanish speakers, whether it's, Spain or Latin Americans, are really stepping up to creating content, and that the world is actually consuming that content originally in Spanish, like, the Money Heist, the Casa de Papel, big TV series on Netflix that was like a big hit, and it was originally in Spanish. This was like very, very big, or Narcos in Colombia. But still, Narcos was mostly in English. The language of the series is in English. You have a lot of Spanish, but still not as Money Heist, that it's totally Spanish. And everybody that is watching it is either dubbed or subtitled, which I think it's really good to create content, whether it's film or music or books, in the original language, and then get translated to other languages, including English and Chinese or any other leading languages today in the world, to get yourself known as an author, as an expert, or in your field.
Absolutely.
But Latinas are not really great at that at this point. Like, I think we're starting to really get awakened, and we're building each other, like you're doing with the Latinas, the 100 Latinas project.
Yeah, and I think we both agree on exactly what you just said, is that there just isn't, we're consuming more than we're creating. And I think that's number one. It's awesome that we acknowledge it, and it's also awesome that we're doing something about it. Right? Like,
I agree.
Yeah, so that's why I always encourage, write, blog, get on YouTube, create a channel, create, because that's who we are. We're creators. We create our own path in the world. And I think especially with technology, we don't want to be left behind in terms of representation in media, because I love being viewed as this sexy, artist. I love it. But there's so many dimensions of Latina women. There's so many
Yeah, but
dimensions.
the thing is that this portrayal of this kind of women is also based on American filmmakers. You know,
Yeah.
once you bring your own culture, that people can see the real Latino culture. I think that's a big difference from who's the storyteller. It's like when you turn in Mexico, when you learn in the books and then you talk to your grandparents, it's like two different stories. Who, the storyteller and the people who lived it and their experience in real life.
Mhm.
So I think that's also important. Like not only having people in front of the camera, acting or hosting
Mhm.
content, but also the producers and the writers.
Mhm.
Like you can have also people who are actually guiding the stories and how to tell them.
Absolutely, and it matters. It matters. So I was thinking when I initially started the Latinas 100, I was like, who are my Latina heroes, right? Who am I looking? Of course, the women in my family, and then I was thinking, um, Dolores Huerta, who was with Cesar Chavez marching, and they all marched with, in the civil rights movement. But I could only think of like Dolores Huerta, right? And then I thought, well, and there's Frida Kahlo in Mexico, who's a Mexican artist, and then there's the, your what you see in media, J Lo and Shakira and Gloria Stefan, which was really big in the 80s and 90s. Um, and I couldn't get past that list. Like I was like, who else?
Oh,
Who
challenging.
else? I was like, why? And it really bothered me. I was like, there needs to be more of us putting, como en español se dice, el sello, our stamp on stuff, right?
I agree.
And what better way to do it than to share your story from all different levels. I mean, I've read so many stories so far, and I have to say, your story is one of those where I was like, wow, it's global. It's at the core of things, it's about love, which that's a passion of mine, and through my work, I also share that everything begins with the heart, and I go into the science of it, and um, and it really hit me that, oh, what avenues is every Latina I know taking to share their story? So for the Latinas 100 project, if you're out there watching, this is another way to get your story out there. This is another way to share who you are in the world. Um, so with that being said, I do want to share a little bit of your essay with everybody
Okay.
listening, and I'm going to read these two small um, paragraphs because I really think that as I was reading your story, this is really what I got out of it. Okay. And then we can talk a little bit about it. So,
That's what you got out of my story. That's going to be interesting.
so that, so I think your essay is about 1,000 words, and then, you share about, your world travel and how you met your husband. And then you say, since then, I have been expanding my influence on the innovation ecosystem as a storyteller, but also as an inventor, as an investor and consultant. After all these years, I still get asked about identity. I usually find that people are looking for answers to put me in a labeled box in their mind: the TV host, the Israeli, the Latina, the Mexican, the Jew, the mother, the entrepreneur, the marketer, the investor, etc. But beyond those labels related to the roles or affiliations that define us that define us in other people's eyes, we're all human. Those are my terms when connecting to people. Meaningful experiences around the world have shaped who I have become in an enriching process as I progress through stages in life. Since I found my chutzpah, an Israeli word for shameless audacity, I have unapologetically chosen what I take from the cultures that I have been exposed to since childhood and what I pass on to my children. I love that. It's like really deep. And that's what I got out of your essay, that we need to get beyond the labels, beyond even the culture, and then see our raw humanity.
Yeah, I think now we live in a digital world where everybody is fighting for attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, hashtags and labels are, the easiest way to categorize. I think our mind, there's this way of speaking in Hebrew that they tell you, well, you need to define exactly how you want people to remember you, because they're going to put you in that box and that label. Like, how are they going to eat you? This is the literal expression. How are they going to eat you? It means that, that you're going to eat it and then swallow it, and that's it. You ate meat or chicken or salmon. They can't be both. But I think that real life and humanity, we're just a rainbow of things. I'm a mom, and I am a mom. And some people will, look at me as a mom. Others will look at me as an investor. Or others will look at me as a TV host or as a Mexican. Like, this is how they're going to remember you in their mind, because it's easier for people to put you somewhere in in a little drawer, which is normal. This is how the mind works. But the way we connect to people, I think it needs to be with this mindset that we're all human.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the same, human terms, no matter what labels we can have, on our social media, on at work, or the way we look, or the way we speak, or the accent we have. I think that's like going beyond what just meets the eye. Just being honestly connecting to each other on a human level.
I love that. Yes. So, my final question to you is, where when people read this story and find out, the details about what you've experienced and where you've been and what you've done, what do you want a young Latina picking up the book, reading your story? What do you want them to know about you and to know about the world?
Um, those are challenging questions. I like them, well, to know about me, that it's never easy to go beyond your comfort zone. Never easy. But from my experience, it's always worth it. So if you doubt yourself for going beyond the comfort zone in anything in life, doesn't matter how big or small it looks to you, just go beyond your comfort zone. I can tell you that it's worth it. Never easy, but totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could give you a couple of examples.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to Israel, was one of the hardest decisions, because I had really like a very happy life with my sister for 3 or 4 years in Guatemala. We really had a great time together. We were working together. We were doing amazing things together. We were also doing a lot of social work that we were excited about there. And letting go of that, beautiful time with my sister was really tough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to a country where, I was not known. I came out from being sort of a little celeb to no one.
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing the language, and most people here speak English,
Mm-hmm.
but still, I had to learn Hebrew. Also, I knew that I wouldn't need to be very, very fast in learning the Hebrew if I wanted to keep on going in the same industry that I was working, which was television. And I chose to focus on the reason I came here, which was to start a family and not on work. I thought that work would just, with time, I would figure out who I wanted to be here or who I wanted to become. And this has been the biggest challenge I think I've taken, to take the risk of figuring it out. Not saying, I have a saying with my friends here that there's this life that is set, like when, in like the supermarket band, that you put your products and they go, straight to the line, and they just stay there.
Yeah.
And this is like mostly when we grow up, we know that life is going to be like this. You're going to go, at least in Mexico and at least where I grew up. You're going to study, you're going to get, do a master's degree, you're going to work, you're going to get experience, and you're going to get married, you're going to have kids. And, your life is set up for you. And taking decisions that are unpopular or not exactly on that line, it means like, you fell from the line that was taking you to your destiny. So taking this decision, like in Spanish would be just cáete de la línea de la caja, ¿no? Para ir en la caja del súper. This is the kind of life I chose. You don't know what's going to happen, but taking risks and going beyond your comfort zone can really show you things about yourself that you never knew were inside, and that you never knew how much could you be able to endure. And it shows you a lot of other abilities that are not only the ones that are required to succeed in your own country or in your own city, or in your own culture, which is amazing, I think. So yeah, that's what I would like them to know about myself. Yes. And about, like, for them, I think just believe in yourself. And okay, I'm going to try to say this in the simplest way. About yourself, not only believe in yourself, but learn a way. I don't know if some of you have traveled, but if friends who are watching, if you've traveled a little bit higher, wherever it is, if it's in a little trail car that goes up a mountain, or a plane or a helicopter, or whatever takes you a few 1,000 meters above the ground, you just change your perspective. So if you're able to look at yourself from 3,000 meters above the ground, then you'll be able to see many things that you don't see if you're just looking at yourself and at the woods around you. The trees look really high and things look really challenging. If you go, high, things take totally different perspective. So I think that's a great exercise as Latinas to learn to do, so that we can, focus on where we want to go and appreciate what we have.
I love that. I love that the perspective is so huge. Like we could write a whole book about that. Like having the perspective and not getting stuck in your own little world. Because if you do, think about yourself, 10 years from now, what would you be telling yourself? That kind of also gives you an opportunity to have perspective. But shifting your environment also helps. So I love that. I love that you shared that.
And also I think for Latinas, it's okay to fail. I think failure is something that it's maybe not a taboo, but it's something that it's taken very hard in the Latin American culture. There's this word, fracasado, like it's not failure, it's failed person, basically, right? Yeah.
Like you're fractured.
Yeah, like if you're fractured, which you're not. Something that you did failed. So what? So, one of the smartest guys ever, which is Albert Einstein, said that no one if someone has never failed, it's because they never tried something new. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to try new things, that's for sure you're going to fail. That's, failure is for sure. It's also part of the recipe and the path to success. Yeah. So don't be afraid of failure. Just, learn from it and move on.
Fail massively fit and then fail fast. I think there's a book on that too. Just like the more times you fail, the faster you can get to your goal, because it's almost like every failure is like you're moving away all the garbage and then you finally get there. And I failed so much in my life, and I know that within my community and especially in the family, it's like there's this phrase, no le digas a nadie, no le digas a nadie, like don't tell anyone. And I was always like, psh, I'm just gonna share it, and everyone was so like, oh, ¿por qué dices esas cosas? Porque no querían que la gente supiera. But I never went along with that. I never went along with not sharing certain things because I didn't want people to know. I just went along with what felt good to me, and what is your bigger message, which is following your heart and following, and then like jumping off and not being scared of what may or may not happen. And then I love what you said earlier, which is like, just make that move and then you figure it out. Like you moved to Israel, you knew that you were going to start a family, and then the career took a second place, but you knew that eventually you would figure it out. And that's part of trusting who you are and trusting yourself too, which I think that you've done brilliantly. So
thank you.
I appreciate you, Ale. Thank you so much for being with me this morning on the 100 Authors, 100 Days conversation. And I'm going to put all the links, Ale's links below. So check it out, subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you check out her book that's on Amazon. Connect with her if you love and like her content like I do. And check out the book, which she will be co-authoring with us at the Latinas 100 Project. And I'm excited to share that project with her and share her story with you as well. So thank you so much, Ale. And I will.
Gracias, Adriana. Toda rabba, we say in Hebrew. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and be part of the 100 Latina Project.